All right, so we'll just start off with this session. We still have some more participants joining in. So as we wait for them, allow me to just do the quick introductions for today. We will be having the four speakers here who are on the screen right now speak on a topic of building better HR and hiring manager relationships. So on the panelists, we have Erica Skita, Helena Solaik. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. And Larato Shawani. And also as the moderator, we have Sive Nodada. So they will be speaking on this topic today. Tomorrow we'll have another panelist. So do join us tomorrow as well. A quick introduction about the GSDC, the hosting organization. So we are known as Global Skill Development Council, and we are a vendor agnostic international credentialing and certification organization. So we have certified over 90,000 professionals, and we currently have over 80 plus certification portfolios, which are recognized by our well-known MNCs like Kendrill, IBM, and such. And we are also proud to be accredited by NSI and ABICB, who does a global renowned accreditation for GSDC. So we currently have over 50 plus global training organizations from all over the regions, and we are proud to have them as our authorized training partners. I do see some of our partners here. Thank you so much for joining in. Also, we are tying up with some global universities for scholarship programs worldwide, and that is a very new project that we are currently working on. So currently GSDC has offices located in Singapore, Switzerland, and US as well. If you would like to know more about the GSDC certifications, about our portfolio, then do have a look on our website, and the link are shared on the chat box, so you can connect with us on LinkedIn as well. We'll be happy to connect with you. These are some of the authorized training partners that we have from across the globe, and we are so proud to be with them. Thank you so much again for joining and for sharing about this event. Big shout out to our official media partner, World Press Hub. Thank you for always sharing about this event, for helping us spread to the network around the world. Thank you so much for partnering with us as always. A quick review about our GSDC certification portfolio. So these are the list of the certification portfolios that we have. If you want to have more details, definitely do check out on our website. All the details will be there. The GSDC certifications does come with a lifetime validity and has and is recognized globally, so it can be web verifiable anywhere as well. The GSDC certifications also holds lifelong memberships, which gives you the access to all these events and all the materials required. Also, we give a complimentary upgrade to any of the modules that may be needed in the market. So these are some of the features of the lifelong that GSDC has. A quick shout out to our volunteer mentors who came forward to volunteer for this event. We are so happy and so glad that you could join us, be a volunteer on this event. Thank you so much again for sharing about this event and being the volunteer mentor for HR Summit 2023. If you would like to be a part of the volunteer mentor, it is still open. You can just reach out to us to be a part of this program. So coming to the main part of our session today, we will be listening from our speakers today. Mr. Sive Nodada will be moderating the session. Just before I give him the time, I do want to inform that we will have a 15-minute Q&A session after the discussion is over. So do save your questions until then. You can leave your questions on the chat box, and Sive will read out the questions for you. And yeah, I hope everyone will stick on with us till the end. All right, so Sive, if you are ready, you can take over the time now.
Thank you so much, Satolu, and thank you to everyone who's joined us for today's session. It truly is an honor to sit among such bright and respected minds across the HR industry from all over the world, really. I feel truly privileged to be in this position, and almost glad that I'm not the one speaking in amongst these prestigious speakers that you will all be hearing from here today. Without getting too much into who I am, because you're here to hear from them, I'll just let you know my name is Sive Notata. I am based in Johannesburg, South Africa, and I am the head of people and talent at 21st Century, which is an end-to-end HR consultancy and remuneration company. I have the speakers here with me who Setolu has already introduced, Erica, Yelena, and Lerato. And without further ado, I think I'm going to pose the first question, and I'll allow the ladies to introduce themselves just as they answer the question. And I'm going to start first with Erica in the first one. So the question I have for you, Erica, is in your experience, what are the challenges facing the relationship between HR and hiring managers? And how have they evolved over the last 5 years since the advent of the outbreak we all experienced some years ago?
Oh, good. From here, good morning, everyone. Here, I'm located here in Vancouver, BC. So for me, it's just 6:30 in the morning. So good morning. I hope you have a great day. Thank you for the first question. Being the first person who starts to talk is not always the best place to start, but yeah, I'm going to start with my experience. I think I'm not sure about how it evolved the last 5 years, but I'm sure that without having a strong relationship between recruitment and hiring manager, the whole recruitment and selection process with finding the highly talented and high performing people is not going to work. So in my expertise, you have to be very clear on, as a hiring manager, what you are looking for, and be open to communicate it to the recruiter. And also, as a recruiter, you have to be open and you have to speak your mind to the hiring manager if you feel like you have constraints the hiring manager is not aware of. And I'm not sure that it's always the case and it's always happening. I can share my experience with you a bit later, because this is just the first question. I have some nice and short cases when I can show you where it went well and where it went wrong. So yeah, I think that's a very important topic to talk about, and I really would like to hear some more information from Lerato and Yelena as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for that input, and for braving through the opening for the rest of the speakers. I'm going to ask Lerato, I pose to you the very same question.
Oh, thank you, Sive. And I think my response is very similar to Erica's response, in the sense that there needs to be clarity between the recruiting line manager and also us as human resources or as talent acquisition. And one of the things that I have found works extremely well in such situations is when you need to have an understanding of the business that you're recruiting for. You really need to have an understanding of how the business works, the team dynamics as well, because you find you might get some of the best candidates that you could ever find for a position, but is that person necessarily the fit, one for the organization, also for the team dynamics? So I've found that it requires, even if I am not recruiting for a particular business unit at a point in time, it is important for me to understand what is happening on the ground with my hiring managers, with the teams that they manage, the dynamics in the teams, any changes that might actually be coming up, so that it's not a silo approach. And this is why it becomes easy, as well as talent acquisition specialists, for us to even position candidates that we feel, this is definitely someone that the line manager needs to, interact with, to interview, because you have such a solid understanding of, the people that you're recruiting for, the business units that you would be recruiting for. So that for me is, especially because I think I speak from my own experience when I say I came from professional services into a marketing organization. So for me, it was very important, to understand how this machine works, how this business runs, to understand the dynamics of being in a marketing organization, the types of personalities, the nuances, of this type of space. And that is what I always, suggest that, HR practitioners, that even if they don't do recruitment, to really get to the heart of the business and understand the businesses that they support.
Oh, thank you so much. That was very interesting. I love the bit about finding the right fit for the team, and also knowing your organization well enough to be able to recruit, especially the part about the line manager and the importance of that relationship as well. I think maybe in the questioning, it kind of lost its way. And I will now pose the same question to Yelena.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Well, I was wondering what to say on this question. And then I realized that actually my team hired around 1,500 people in the last 2 years. So I was thinking about the old challenges we went through with the hiring managers. And then I realized that probably the biggest challenge we've had so far is kind of a lack of empathy and understanding from both sides, because we approach to them like, these are the rules of our hiring process. It needs to be done like that. We are HR. And they approach to us like, no, but I'm hiring manager. I know what I want, so you cannot tell me what to do. So I think that our biggest, maybe I would say, mistake or fail was that we didn't take a time actually to understand the another side, what they want, why they want, and so on. So when we saw that it's not going to be very well at the end, we actually started to organize more meetings about the internal alignment between HR and hiring managers, with a full focus on listening. Okay, let me say what I'm thinking, but I will listen to you, what you really need as a hiring manager, as a business unit, as a business, and so on. So I think that for us, this was the biggest challenge, and this was the maybe one thing which helped us to change it a bit. And the second challenge, I would say, it is still difficult, is that the market conditions are really, really difficult after the COVID-19, because there are expanded global network of people who work from home. Also, there are a lot of new jobs. So talent attraction is really, really hard. So if you don't have a really strong bonding with a hiring manager, it's not so easy just to get in the market and recruit all the talents out there. So this really needs to be emphasized as a common goal of both sides, HR and hiring managers as well. And as a final point on this, I really think that HR has a big role in approaching to managers and saying, okay, I have the rules, I have the procedures, but let's discuss. Let's make tailor-made solutions if needed, and so on. So this is what I would like to share.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yelena. As a man, I can confirm that listening is a problem in all relationships. So thank you, I think, for pointing that out. I mean, we just imagined that things would go a little bit easier at work in that regard, but really empathy seems to form the cornerstone of all relationships in general. Yelena, I'm going to allow you to continue speaking by being the first to address our next question, and we'll reverse the order thereafter. So the last thing you mentioned was solutioning around the needs on both sides. So the question I'd like to pose to you now is, how can modern practices and technology assist HR and hiring managers in addressing these issues and challenges? we've seen a massive change in technology over the last few years. Everyone is going crazy about AI and ChatGPT, although we know that there's a whole plethora of artificial intelligence systems other than ChatGPT that can do any number of things, from art to predicting lotto numbers at this stage. They say if you want to get rich in the market, use AI and let it decide what to invest in. So what do you think this new technology can do to help us out in building and addressing these issues?
Yeah, thanks a lot. This is actually my favorite question. Well, thinking about AI, I've been facing during the years with a lot of questions like how AI will replace people, especially in HR, especially in human connections and so on. But you know what? Whoever is a recruiter, he or she knows how AI can be really, really helpful in terms of a pre-selection in every recruitment process. So I assume that whoever is in recruitment, it's not a big fan of pre-screening of the CVs, especially a lot of CVs, which are not maybe always relevant. So I really think that artificial intelligence can help us a lot in this pre-selection phase, but of course in some later stages as well, but not to replace human connection, that's for sure. But another thing I would like to mention is actually this metaverse and all the things which can help us in building the employer branding, which is of course key ingredient of good recruitment process. And I realized that if you are really advanced with the technology, if you're always staying up to the latest trends with the technology as a company, this is also good for the employer branding, because people will be easily attracted to your company and they would like actually to be involved in your recruitment process, maybe sometimes just because of the experience. Like, I want to be a candidate in this process just to see how is it going, because I heard it's interesting, they have some new things and so on. I think this is a crucial moment in the modern recruitment process as well. And the third thing I would like to mention, I think that these video interviews really helped a lot. I read recently that around 75% of millennials actually expect the first round of interviews to be in video form, not just like a going in person, saving a bit of time, but having a time to assess the another side, assess the company, assess the interviewer as well, and so on. So I really think that these video channels are also helpful. And hybrid work, definitely, because almost, I would say in more than 90% of cases, candidates ask, can I work from home? Is it possible? Is it everything like connected, like I'm there, and so on? So I really think that all of these things are actually not meant to be replacement for the human connection, but rather are really huge help.
So thank you for that. I found it very interesting. You know, we speak of the metaverse and the preference for video-based initial interviews. And, you know, when you think about those two things coming together and the various ways in which we might be able to take advantage of that, I think we're definitely going down the right track, although I haven't quite experienced the metaverse myself. But as you can see, we're all doing very well on video, aren't we? So I'm going to ask Erica if you can jump on and add to Yelena's inputs there.
Thank you. I think AI and all the softwares we are using in HR can be very useful. But I also had some experience when an AI and a hiring manager's expectations were not really aligned. So you can have the best resume or CV ever built up perfectly for an AI to have all the skills and everything which is in the job ad, but you can still be a bad fit for a team, as Lerato said, because we have to think further, not just doing exactly the job, but how can you work in a team, how can you fit in a team, how your personality and how your attitude going to go with the other team members. So I think that's where AI is not on the spot yet. So this is why we need definitely interviews and personal connections to see how the new candidate could fit to the team. I also think that video interviewing is a big thing. I live here in Canada, not more than 1.5 years ago. I moved here, so I just live here more than 1.5 years, and I had several video interviews, and I think that's important because hybrid work and remote work is really popular here as well. And I interviewed for companies in another province. I interviewed for international companies, and they definitely don't want to go to every place and have an office and have an in-person interview at first. So for pre-screening or the first interview, I think Zoom and all other platforms are pretty useful since COVID. And I also think that hybrid work is really popular. But here I can see that more and more people are so more and more companies stating that they would like to have their people in office. So it's like there are some resistance in the candidate parts, but more and more companies deciding to have people back in the office.
Thank you so much, Erica. I'm glad that you brought in Lerato's comments around a best fit for talent. And you know, I was just as you're saying it, I'm starting to think around all of these different personality style assessments that help you make those kinds of decisions. The other day we were talking about how accurate, you know, your whole INFJ, EMTP assessments turn out to be when you see it play out in reality, and how this might actually be able to assist us. So perhaps there are these tools that have always been around that maybe we're forgetting about a bit whilst trying to adopt all this technology. So I'll allow the very person who raised it to kind of close out the whole, how do we get this best fit for talent side of the discussion, you know? And how do we go about recruiting the guys that, or discovering if these people will actually be the best fit for the team? So Lerato, having opened up that very beautiful can of worms, I'm going to allow you to pick it apart now.
Thank you, Sive. I think, I mean, you know, Erica and Elena have actually mentioned in part around, you know, how you get the best fit. And I mean, the use of technology, for instance, for us as, you know, a South African organization with offices in other, you know, regions, we've managed to use technology to run our interviews. The entire HR team sits actually here in the Johannesburg office, and we would then have to recruit for our China market, Japan, and so forth. The use of technology has actually assisted us in, one, saving costs, where we don't actually have to travel into those markets. We are a government-owned entity, so, you know, exercising fiscal prudence is one of the things that we need to do. So technology has actually helped us to, you know, capacitate our teams from, you know, just here sitting at head office. However, with instances where you have to kind of find, you know, a fit for the organization, we've had to leverage on also people that are sitting in those countries, where I would have, if I'm looking for a coordinator in the US, I get someone else in the team to kind of sit in on that interview, to have a conversation where you as HR now almost an observer, and you allow these people to kind of interact and see how they are building rapport and relationship. Because at the end of the day, once you've recruited that person, they have to be immersed in the team. And the use of panels for us has actually helped us to assess, you know, the fit. So having a panel that is made up of not only the people in the team, but some of the business partners or people that position would actually interface with, having those individuals in the room, asking questions, having conversations around how a day in the life of interacting with, you know, with that particular individual or department would be. So not only having the line manager and HR in a meeting or in the interview, but having other people that interface with that business unit who would also have an experience with what this individual would be expected to do. We found that it actually, it works it's been quite successful in the sense that even when the person is successful for the position, they already have 2 or 3 people in the business that know them, that know what they're capable of. So it kind of makes the integration into the teams also a lot easier, because you've got buy-in not only from the line manager, but you've got buy-in from other strategic relationships and business units that this role would report into.
Yeah, I must admit that you've shared something I'd never considered before. I don't think I've heard someone talk about taking that approach. It almost feels like a kind of open day, like we have in schools, where you get a chance to interact with some of the people you'll be working with in future, and to bring that in so early in the process is definitely a refreshing approach, which I haven't heard, but I must admit I have experienced in my own life. I'll tell you, where I currently work at 21st Century, I was introduced to the bar before I was ever introduced to the boardroom. So I guess there's various different ways in which you can approach this. So I want us to get practical now. Lerato, can you tell us, with everything you've just said, how do we make it work? Like for everyone attending this conference here, if you have just one thing, one idea that you want them, or understanding you want them to leave this session with today, what knowledge or little gem do you want to drop on all of us today?
So I'm a firm believer, and it's something that I have practiced, and I encourage all HR practitioners to practice. Everything in an organization rises and falls on leadership. And, as an HR practitioner, we can have some of the greatest ideas. If we don't have that support from the leadership, the center. So, sometimes it will take us a while to get the buy-in from our executives on a lot of the approaches that, we want to have. But I feel HR is at a point where we are now strategic advisors to business. We're no longer just, a back office function. We need to also be leading with best practice. Where something, for instance, we always benchmark against other organizations such as ourselves. And we get to a point where if there's best practice that is being done by another marketing agency, let's say Australia, we will go to our leadership and say, we think this could work. They are our biggest competitor. Can we position it in this way? So always engaging the leadership with, best practice, new ways of working, even new technology. I've reached a point where, we used to be a very manually operating paper-based environment. We are now going digital. Everything is being employee files, every process end to end is now being done online. And it took a while where we would have to have difficult conversations with an executive to say, we cannot accept that document. It needs to be done online. Everything needs to be documented. And they now see the value to such an extent where we are getting asked, how else, can we digitize certain functions? Or, how can we make things easier? So just getting the leadership excited as well about, best practice and new things that are happening in human capital practices, because at the end of the day, they are also, human capital. So when you touch them and you get them excited about these practices, it's easier for them to actually give the sponsorship and support to the rest of the business.
I could not agree with you more, Lerato. Thank you so much for that more practical input. We love to talk theory and some of the higher level issues, but once things get down to brass tacks, that's what people really need an understanding of, is how to take all of this information forward. So on that note, I'd like to ask Yelena the very same question, Yelena. If you have one golden nugget that you want to share with us here today, how can people make all of this practical?
Well, yeah, you said one and I had the 3 words. So can I use 3 words? Okay, I would say understand as a first word, like really understand what hiring manager needs. Implement, like implement recruitment strategy, recruitment process, and so on. And one word, which is the most important, I would say, inform, meaning track progress. For me, this is the biggest learning in my recruitment experience so far. Inform hiring manager what is happening, even if nobody is looking for the status update. I personally know that I'm getting a bit frustrated when I don't know what is happening with something. So I really had amazing experience with sharing the status update. Like, guys, this is where we are standing. This is the first thing. And the second thing, this is what is not going so well. Sharing mistakes or failures or some gaps and so on also could help a lot, because then you are turning hiring managers into ambassadors who will do a lot to help you. Actually, when you make yourself vulnerable, not in an artificial manner, of course, but saying, guys, these are the challenges, this is what we are doing, but it's not helping, we need additional tools, additional help, and so on. Believe me, all hiring managers will act as a supportive system who will help you a lot in order to achieve common goal, and then you will ensure they buy in as well. So this is what I would like to share.
Thank you so much for that input, Yelena. You know, I've heard, especially here in South Africa, I've heard some say that these line managers just run off on their own, and they think that HR is just a bypassing station. You know, but you've now played it out. I mean, really, if we do keep them informed and we share a lot more with them, the more people are informed and are involved in the communication, the easier it is for them to make their contributions, and just if they know what's going on. So on that note, I'm going to ask Erica, you open for us, perhaps time for you to close for us now. How can we make this practical? What is your golden nugget for the session?
Thank you. I would like to put mine, I think it's quite aligned with we heard from Lerato and Yelena. I think buy-in is really important. I think keeping people informed is really important, but I would like to go back Yelena's first speech, talking about being empathetic with another. So it's like we need to keep communicating with each other with empathy, to see that, okay, maybe we planned something, we planned this process with these and these deadlines, but life happens. So something can happen. The hiring manager can have some urgent issues. The recruitment, the HR division can have some other issues. So keep communicating with each other and keep the empathy at hand, because it's always important to see that we are in a relationship, in a working relationship. And even though if this recruitment process will end, we still have to keep this relationship and maintain it well. So my word would be definitely communicating with empathy.
Thank you so much, Erica. I'm really enjoying the consistency in the messaging that's coming across. And I think, in my view, at least so far, and what I've heard, you know, it's just the emphasis that a relationship is a relationship, no matter where it is, and all relationships function on the very same principles. If we're all sitting in silos and we treat each other as the other, rather than just being a part of the same thing, working within the same system and keeping that openness and communication, that seems to me to be really the cornerstone of how to get this relationship right, and to assist organizations kind of take that next step in building the future that they want to see. I think on that note, we've reached the closing of my part of the discussion, and we're going to be opening up the floor to our audience to pose some questions to our speakers, not to me. I'm not here to answer the questions, but I will definitely. You can either direct it to whichever speaker you would like to hear from. As our audience members, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. I'll be reading the chat. I've been keeping tabs on it. There we go. We've got a question in already. I was going to finish by saying, or you can put up a hand and just ask the question, because it's always great to get the voices in the room. I still have a preference for hearing people speak. But with this first one, next one can just raise a hand, and we will give you permission to make your input. What the first question is, what strategies can HR employ to measure and evaluate the effectiveness of the HR and hiring manager relationship, and identifying areas for improving and addressing any gaps or challenges? Yeah, I'm not really sure who would like to take that on.
This is my favorite question, so maybe I can start.
You have a few favorite questions, Elena.
Yeah, actually, when I saw this question, I realized that I didn't mention this thing about getting the feedback from hiring manager and so on. So I'm really glad that somebody asked that, actually. So
excellent. Take it away.
Yeah, I would say there are two ways, according to my experience. Probably there are more ways, of course. The first way is more official, like having the official hiring manager satisfaction survey coming from the recruitment system, asking you as a hiring manager, are you satisfied? What would you like to improve? What is good? What could be better? And so on. What can happen with this that hiring manager forgets to answer or doesn't want to answer or draft some socially desirable answers or something like that? So this is the one way. The second way, which is actually preferably to me, is to have more personal connection with the hiring manager, like saying, can we schedule 15 minutes like feedback session after the recruitment process is done, just to hear more about what do you think about the process, how we can improve. And of course, if you have a lot of vacant positions and you cannot manage to schedule one-on-one with every hiring manager, that's totally fine and totally normal. You can also drop the email, involve like a 1 minute sending. I really appreciate your feedback. Please fill in the survey. I'm actually reading it. So please give me your honest feedback. This could be a good base for any improvement within the recruitment area. And I would always propose the second way, but anyway is a good to ask for feedback, better than no asking. And really, really thanks for the question.
Thank you so much for that response, Elena. At this point, I'm going to ask, does anyone else really love that question and is feeling quite excited to respond to it?
I also think it's a good question, but Yelena answered it really like I would have answered that, so I have nothing else to share.
I see. Thank you so much, Erica, for that input. I'm not really seeing any further questions in our chat. So I suppose with the time that we have at our disposal, you know, I have a few things that I'd like to know. I've been exploring in this space, you know. Oh wait, hang on. There we go. We've got a hand up. So I don't know if my questions matter.
Steve, actually, yeah, sorry. So actually, that's me, and I have a question from LinkedIn from Rahul. So he's watching from LinkedIn. So he's asking, could you also please highlight on the situation of layoff that's happening across industries and how employees can take decision to stay in this critical situation? So he is asking that from LinkedIn.
I don't know, Erica, you were about to answer, but I think Lerato, maybe you want to take a swing at this.
Yes, thanks, Sive. I think, I mean, coming from South Africa, which has probably one of the highest unemployment rates, close to 35%, and being in the tourism sector, which was the hardest hit during COVID, we're still feeling the ripple effects and seeing the ripple effects of the pandemic and subsequently obviously the loss of jobs. I think one of the things that, I mean, we get, contacted by individuals all the time. And one of the things that employees need to really, really honestly focus on when they're sitting in that situation is always have more information than less. Have an understanding of, what exactly the impact will be on you specifically. And this is where like your HR business partner needs to play a central role. And networking as well. Networking is not only when you're in a situation where I'm looking for a job, I want to, only then do I tap into my network. Sites like LinkedIn provide such great information and connections on how you can connect with either the industry that you are in, the sector that you are also in. And that way it will really help you to leverage opportunities that are out there. And we're getting more and more opportunities in the market for, your remote working opportunities where it might require you to work, different hours. I mean, from a South Africa perspective, I have people that have managed to find jobs with working remotely with companies in the US. Obviously, given the time zone differences, it does require one to be flexible and just kind of adjust. So that flexibility, being open to, stepping out of your comfort zone, applying for those remote working opportunities. There are a lot of organizations that are very happy to, have employees that are working all over the world. It's not a necessity anymore to be working for an organization that has bricks and mortar type of setup. So individuals that find themselves in a situation where there are layoffs is to spread the net wider, connect, increase your network, continue to, to network and be open to opportunities that will kind of force you to be out of your comfort zone.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Lerato. I don't know if you are inspiring our guests here today, but since you started speaking, a host of questions have just flooded in. I don't even think I can get through all of them, but I'm just going to run through a few here. We've got a B. Lavanya saying managers not meeting the organizational goals may lack some particular qualities even after being trained on skills and techniques. My organization wants to fire those managers, but my point is transferring those managers to other departments in which I know they will be performing well. How do I make the management understand and accept this? I hope I have given your words justice there, Mr. Lavanya or Miss Lavanya. I'm not entirely certain. I do not wish to insult. But is anyone keen to take this one on? Erica, you seem to have jumped at an opportunity there, and then it kind of escaped you. So I'll give you that one.
Thank you. No, it was fine. I think Lerato has way more experience on the last question than I did. So, but I like this question, and I think the most important part is to know the managers, not just the managers are in questions having or lacking the certain skills or competencies, but also the managers, they would like to lay them off or fire them, because I think different types of people, with different personalities needs different approach. So I cannot give you the holy grail of the answer of the question, but if you know the manager, you know that they need detail, then you build your case up on details. I saw this and this and that, and I think this and this and that could happen, and based on this and this and this. Also, if you have another manager who likes to get done with all the information, just give them a short summary of the whole situation. Why do you think this and this and this could happen? Because they would like to deal with the short summary of the case, and they would like to have a quick decision based on your information. There is another type of managers who would like to be involved. So it's not enough for them just to give information for them. They would like to be involved. So okay, involve them. Say, okay, please try this and this and that, and we can have a better solution. And there is the other type of manager who like to see how the whole organization and how people will be will be affected by the decision. So, you have to find your angle based on what you know about this certain manager you would like to talk to and present your case to. So that would be my first advice, to think about the people who would like to talk to and to present your case, and decide accordingly what kind of information and approach would be more useful for them to understand your position on the case.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And now they're rolling in. Hey, I don't know what's happening. People are, I know for you, it's like 6:30 a.m. On our side, it's like 3:30 or 4:04 in the afternoon. So, maybe people are waking up in British Columbia and realizing that you're here, and deciding they can't miss this opportunity. But, we've got two questions that have come in, and I'm going to put it out like this. I'd like Elena to answer the first question first, and then I'd like Lerato to answer the second question second, right? I hope that was clear. I didn't say first question second and second question first, right? So Elena, and then Lerato.
I'm lost. Which question?
Yeah, I kind of confused I feel like I tripped over my own laces there almost. But I'd like to know, the first question we've got here in the chat is how can we mitigate the impact of AI on job security, which is, I'm sure, a question you definitely are receiving quite often. I know from conferences that it just comes up all the time. And then the second question that's come up is, how can HR navigate conflicts or disagreements between hiring managers and HR regarding the sourcing and selection of external recruitment agencies or vendors? And that one I'm going to pose to you, Lerato. And I'm not sure if thereafter we'll have much time to take on too many more questions. I will take some guidance from Setolu from GSDC in terms of how far we're allowed to go in this session. But in that order, Yelena, how can we mitigate the impact of AI on job security? And Lerato, how do you suggest that we deal with conflict when it arises within this relationship?
Okay, thanks for the question. I think it's very, very relevant. And then I can share only my perspective, so it's not the only truth that we can have, but I can share it. So I really don't think that AI will replace us. I really think that it can just help us in order to get rid of the repetitive or more operational tasks and so on. So I really don't think that somebody will lose the job because of the AI, but rather that his or her job will be kind of a reframed. Like, it's not going to have a lot of repetitive or operational tasks, like in the case of pre-screening of CVs, but rather focusing on some other, maybe new sourcing techniques or building relationship with hiring manager or proposing the new ideas for the employer branding. So let's imagine, like, in 2 minutes, clear example of one recruiter in recruitment department. Rather than spending like 10 hours in going through 100 CVs, this person can have the shortlisted CVs from the AI tool, and then use the time for employer branding ideas, building the relationship with hiring manager, contributing to the overall employment strategy, and so on. So from the employer perspective, I think we can utilize employees in some different ways, which are more innovative, creative, and strategic. And from the employee's perspective, we always should ask ourselves, okay, what I'm contributing with? Am I delivering something new? Am I up to date with the latest trends and so on? And not just like performing all the same task, because that's not definitely good for development of any person. Hope I answered.
I certainly feel like you did. I hope that our audience feels the same way as well. So on that note, then I will allow Lerato to take on the much more difficult question of conflict. How do we address conflict in the workplace, and particularly within the relationship between the hiring managers and HR?
So I'm of the view that with every relationship, there are terms of reference. And this is where, hiring HR as, the talent acquisition specialists need to leverage off of policies or standard operating procedures, for the recruitment process. It cannot be that, yes, the line manager requires the resource, but they cannot have carte blanche or, blank check to overstep all of the processes that are put in place, one, to protect the organization from risk, to mitigate risks, and to ensure that you actually run a fair recruitment process. So standard operating procedures or rules of engagement around, how applications are received, deadlines, for the receipt of applications, who's responsible for what, the scheduling of those interviews, the receipt of unsolicited applications or CVs. How is that dealt with? I find that once the rules of engagement have been established, there hardly ever arises a conflict around, even, with the use of recruitment agencies. If you have a panel of service providers, or you have a process for how those vendors are onboarded and subsequently utilized to run a recruitment process, it needs to be communicated to the line manager to say, I have these service providers, and this is their function, and start beginning to end, this is the relationship that we have with the service provider, so that you also kind of curb the over involvement of line managers into governance processes around the recruitment process. So it's very important to establish the rules of engagement, have standard operating processes, and where you can, have policies that also protect the integrity of the recruitment process all the time.
Sure. Thank you for that one. I can tell you, Lerato, I wouldn't even have known how to answer that question. I think you gave it a great bash there. Thank you so much for the advice. I'm going to be applying that. In fact, I'm glad I have a recording of this. The next time I have to deal with this, I'm just going to play your recording in front of them, because I don't think I could have said it quite as well. But we've got a couple more questions that have come in the group, and again, I'm going to say that I'm asking Sithole to guide us in terms of timing. I think that we've got about 7 minutes left in the session before we have to kind of close it out. But I will continue with a few comments and questions here. It says here, most of the time I deal with startups or new branches in business. I have been observing throughout my career that the management deal with people, but they remain reluctant to give a practical value of HR. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So how can we as HR professionals help management to understand and help the team understand and set a space, create a space really, to understand what the value is of HR, evaluation as an asset? So that's a very interesting question. I had not thought of that at all. I think with this one, I'll allow whichever speaker wants to tackle that to give it a go. First come, first serve, ladies.
Maybe I will start, and I'm going to give the mic after, pass the mic after. I think having some crucial conversation are really important, to ask questions. So when we want to start a conversation like that, which is very sensitive, I think everybody can be offended pretty quickly. You have to have your best intention. It's like, I would like to, start with, I think there is a problem or misunderstanding between the company, and I would like to find a solution, and I would like to have your input on that. To being open and honest and having the best intention, I think it's the best start. Keeping the empathy all the way. I'm talking about all this stuff because I worked for my own company for 12 years, where empathy and emotional intelligence and all the soft skills were in core. I'm a training facilitator. I'm a learning and development professional. So I always think soft skills and people skills should be the core of all relationships. So I would definitely start with that, with stating that I think there is a misunderstanding. I think there's some people would not see the same situation in the same way because we are definitely different. So I would start with that. And I think that a nice conversation could fall from here if you start at, okay, we would like to solve the situation, and we are not going to accuse the other party saying that you are not doing this and this and that. And I don't think it's the right way to go, and my way is better than your way. I think communicating, starting with, we would like to solve the situation and we would like to ask other parties help or contribution, that would be a great start with this conversation.
I think that was a brilliant answer to what really was not a very straightforward and easy question to answer. But well done for tackling that. That was quite impressive, in all honesty. But we've got a couple more questions that have come in, so I think I will accept your answer as truth, and move on to what's coming up, because people are trying to get more practical about AI, right? And one of the things I've kind of noted recently is there's such a strong focus on ChatGPT as AI. It's almost like you would swear ChatGPT is AI, as in it is the essence of it. But it is so expansive in terms of what they can do. I mean, these things are creating opportunities for us to literally see the likes of Plato speaking by regenerating them and making them almost alive again, even recreating their voices. And there's so much that we can do in that space. So I think the questions that have come in are kind of like, how do we get more practical? Like here, the first one is, have you ever used ChatGPT for its HR functions? And I can tell you very quickly on that one, if you need to write a report or you get a topic like, how do you understand conflict between these relationships? Just ask ChatGPT that question. You'll get a full-on report. Or if you need to report on anything, really, it'll give you the greatest foundation to get that started. But how then in HR can we start taking advantage? And I'd really like this to be about AI in general, right? With the various different tools that AI has given us, and what we have at our disposal. One of the things I'd say we're looking into is predictive analytics, taking people data and allowing AI to predict performance moving forward based on how it is that you assemble a team. For example, just pulling these various aspects and utilizing data that exists in organization to achieve that next step. Those are some of the conversations taking place in my space. But the team here and our audience would like to know, how do we make this thing much more practical? How is AI amalgamated with HR? Can you share some live examples on that? Are there any strategies you have adopted in areas of HR and the challenges that are faced? And that question comes from Bikash Panda. And I think with this one, Yelena, I'll allow you to take that one, and then the very last question I will swing through to Lerato.
Yes, thanks. Well, to be fully honest, I haven't used ChatGPT in HR functions so far, so I don't have any concrete cases to share. And I think that I already shared my experience with artificial intelligence. It was mostly related to this pre-selection part, and also related to this assessment. Like Sive, you mentioned, we used it as a predictive analytics for the candidates as well. Like if they're behaving on personality tests like this, how they will behave in a team and so on. And also I heard for the usage of artificial intelligence in terms of having the prediction of somebody's behavior within the particular culture, like giving the inputs about main characteristics of our cultures are culture is like that. Please assess the behavior of the candidate and tell us the prediction is he or she is going to behave in line with that or not in line with that. So we're coming back to this topic of the cultural fit, like Lerato mentioned so far. So these are my only experiences so far with artificial intelligence in real life, to put it like that. But if somebody has some other practical example, I will be also happy to hear.
Thank you so much, Elena. I'm glad that you brought up those personality tests again, because there's just one interesting story out of South Africa. So yes, Lerato will know this a little bit better than most in here, and maybe Nonqedo Elizabeth as well. I'm pretty sure you're South African, just seeing your name. But one of the most interesting things that's happened is we have a team. We play a sport called rugby in South Africa, and we have a rugby team which really was not a top performing side. Historically has never really been a top performing side. And we started recently playing rugby in Europe rather than in the South, which was the traditional way of going about things and setting up these tournaments. But one of the most interesting things is ever since we moved into this European tournament, both of the last two finals have been won by only one South African team, right? And this team doesn't have any of the best players. It doesn't have any of most of our national players aren't even in it. What I discovered is what they changed is that they started doing personality assessments and using data to predict performance and who performs better next to whom, you know, which I found fascinating, that it was actually based more on it was a proclivity assessment is what they called it. They call it a proclivity because it's something that assesses your natural inclinations, you know. Like some people are naturally predisposed to behave and succeed in particular sets of tasks. So a lot of the times, people can be put in teams and put into positions that they wouldn't naturally succeed in because it just doesn't come to them as easily as it would to somebody else. And how this can actually be a career killer. What I found fascinating about this study and discovering that the team had been using these proclivity assessments was just that you could achieve that much just from that understanding of people, and how, in fact, I don't know if it's that people aren't willing to invest the time to really understand each other, but technology doesn't actually seem to have too much of a problem doing that itself. So having spoken about something that is well and truly South African, by the way, we are the world champions. I just had to throw that out there. But Lerato, can you maybe assist us in understanding this? Have you ever used AI in your work? And how has it been, how has it assisted you? You've spoken quite extensively today about understanding teams, being empathetic, getting into the dynamics, knowing the person. How has this, coupled with technology, assisted you in taking your organization through that next step?
So one of the things that, I mean, we are a small team and we're a small organization, and a lot of the day-to-day things, questions around, you know, how do I access my payslip? How do I find, you know, what my leave balance is? Those are things that a chatbot can easily kind of assist with. So funny enough, one of my colleagues who's in the banking sector actually helped us write code basically with some of our interns here on how to create like a little chatbot for the day-to-day mundane things that, you know, the business partners do not have capacity to respond to. So that for me is a practical example, and we're trying to kind of extend it to other offerings in the team, you know, how to easily access, you know, policies. I have a query regarding, you know, my performance contract. How do I access that? Just to have a bot that will do the front line or first line type of HR related questions or queries. And the benefit of a chat bot is the fact that it's 24 hours. So, you know, my person sitting in Australia does not have to wait for me to respond to, you know, a query of that nature. They literally can just log on to, you know, the application, access it, and they have the information. So for us, it's actually helped also empower line managers as well, as they're having those difficult conversations or they're engaging with their employees. It becomes a lot easier. You know, if I've forgotten, you know, I haven't referred to a certain policy or something on, you know, the, you know, accessing of leave, I can literally just go into this chatbot and ask the relevant questions. I get a response, and then it helps them and empowers them to have those conversations, so that we don't have this, or line managers don't have this over-reliance also on, you know, on human capital when it comes to the day-to-day line manager responsibilities of managing, you know, a team.
Chatbot first responders, like that is just, it's a brilliant idea. Especially when it comes to that kind of detailed information, you know, when chatbots themselves have been around for a long time, but what AI has actually done to chatbots is that it's allowed the bots to understand. And that's actually a big difference. There's quite a big difference between searching for a clause by using keywords, which is what a search function chatbot was before, versus an AI-enabled chatbot that can read the information, interpret it for you, and explain it back to you in a way that makes practical sense for you. So just that next step, something I honestly had never considered, was really quite an interesting idea and a great piece of innovation from, I just wish you said that guy came from HR and he decided to code all of this, because then, you know, we could give him like a great yay and a thumbs up, you know, well done you for just thinking of that. I mean, we're looking at that within some of the systems that we've developed here in South Africa. But it's just a very interesting approach to, all you're really doing is making people's lives easier, right? And isn't that what we're here for at the end of the day, right? We're dealing with such complex and complicated processes that no one is willing to spend the time sitting and learning about. So the easier you make it for them, the easier then it just becomes in general. Work becomes way more seamless when we approach it this way. According to Setolu's last message, we are about 2 minutes over time. So I'm not entirely certain if we have time for any closing remarks. Setolu, can you please offer us some guidance on whether I need to close this out, or I can allow these ladies just one last opportunity to close out for us?
Yes, please. We would love to hear all your closing remarks before we close this all session. So please go ahead.
Excellent. So I like consistency, and I love to end the same way that I began. So I'm literally going from left to right, because that's how I started, left to right on my screen, and that means that Erica, you have the floor to close out, or at least start our closing process.
First of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity of being here and having these wonderful speaker colleagues with me and sharing our opinions on that. And I still think that the most important part of hiring manager and talent acquisition or recruitment is having open conversations and having best intentions in mind, and just keep that you have to use empathy and you have to use your people skills to have good relationship. I cannot really talk about AI, but I think it's not my not my style. I always see that when people are open to learn new opportunities and just to develop themselves and improve themselves, that's a good start. So this is why I think learning and development is important here. If from a recruitment or HR perspective, we would like to have a hiring manager who is prepared for everything can happen during this whole recruitment session and selection session. We need to sometimes train them or help them to understand our position. And our responsibility is to help to build and maintain this relationship using our soft and people skills. Thank you so much.
There I am speaking on mute again. Yay, technology. Thank you so much for that, Erica. And I wish you a great morning in British Columbia. I guess it's summertime there, so we're the ones experiencing the cold, and that's why I'm in a coat and you look very comfortable. Your country is very much known for that freezing weather, so I wish you a great day that side. And on that note, Yelena, can you assist us with your closing remarks?
Yes, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to the speakers and Sia for your patience. Definitely, you were amazing today, like all the other speakers and participants. Really, thank you for taking your time to be here today with us. I would have just like two notes for the end. The first one is a kind of advice, is to be brave and be proactive and always try to innovate and to offer some new things, even in your relationship with the hiring managers as well. Don't be afraid of offering new solutions. And the second thing is always communicate, always try to speak actually with another person, because it's easy, it's just another person, and you can always find a common ground while communicating. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Yelena, for those closing remarks. And just to close out, I'm going to remind the audience of a little nugget you left us with earlier on as well, which is understand, implement, and inform. I know people love it when you can pull out just 3 catchphrases like that. It's easy to remember, kind of sticks to the mind, and it really encapsulates a lot of what you've told us today. And we appreciate the message that you've sent out. So on Yelena's behalf, I'm just going to say it one more time: understand, implement, and inform. And on that note, thank you so much, Yelena. I wish you an absolutely wonderful day. We will allow now Lerato to close it out.
Thank you. I think for me, just the parting shot is, as HR professionals and practitioners, we need to continuously learn. We need to elevate ourselves, get new skills, understand the business. And I like what Erica's been very consistent in her message around empathy. We need to honestly practice empathetic leadership and as HR professionals lead the rest of the business with empathy. I think it's very important. I can't overemphasize it, because I have seen that empathy actually helps us build trust with our employees. It helps us build trust in the business. It helps build psychological safety. So I think as HR professionals, it's important to be open to new ways of, doing our jobs, reaching out and connecting with other professionals. That's the best way for us to actually add value to the organizations that we are in.
Thank you so much for that, Lerato. In fact, I'm now going to be catching a flight back to Johannesburg. So if we're lucky, we might even bump into each other and have further discussions around.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Around how this can be done. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of the speakers for your wonderful input in today's session. It was most valuable, and I'm sure that the audience will agree that we've gained a great deal of value from this session. I'd also like to thank GSDC for this invitation to host this session with you guys. I've had an absolutely wonderful time, and I hope you've all enjoyed it also. Thank you so much, guys. It's been absolutely great. And from our side, I am off. Thank you, Setolu, and goodbye.
Thank you so much, Sive. It has been wonderful. I wish you a safe flight. I suppose you're getting late, so please you can go ahead. And thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Thank you to all the speakers. It has been a pleasure hosting you at the GSDC platform. We will definitely love to have you again at the GSDC platform, and definitely would connect again. So it has been an honor and a very great pleasure. The session was really wonderful. Thank you to all the participants who joined as well. Before the participants leave, I do want to inform again that tomorrow we'll be having another session with 4 more fantastic speakers on another topic. So please do join us. The registration is still open. You can ask your colleagues, your friends, anyone who is interested. You can ask them to still register there. Also, quick information that GSDC is celebrating an anniversary. So we are giving away a flat 40% discount on all the certifications. So do take the opportunity here and do explore the certifications that we have. We will be very happy to guide you through this path as well. And you can connect with us on LinkedIn, on our website. The links are all shared on the chat box. You can have a look at our HR professional certificates. We have the certified HR business partner certificate as well. Do have a look at those as well, and do take the opportunity for this. Also, there may be some people who missed out on asking some questions, so you can definitely make use of our LinkedIn group. This will be the L&D and HR LinkedIn group, and it is exclusive to the community. That is the people who have registered. So you can join there, and you can leave your questions there, so that we can connect with you with the speakers to have your questions answered, and you can have more discussion with the other participants as well to discuss about the session as well. We are also leaving out a feedback form. I do request everyone to please leave us your valuable feedback. It will mean a lot to us, and it will help us in arranging and hosting these events in the future as well. So I will leave everyone here. Thank you so much again. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. And again, thank you so much to the speakers. It has been an incredible session. And I do believe that tomorrow we're going to have another incredible session. So do join us again tomorrow. To everyone, have a good day, good night, wherever you are. Please take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.